So, brand new episode of Masamune-kun, and this was an interesting episode because our boy Masume, he broke, and he broke hardcore, and he broke it. You know, it's funny to think is like when it comes to feelings, when it comes to emotions, it's always one-sided, right? It takes a pretty special person, or it takes somebody with like the reality. It takes somebody with experience, or somebody with really high empathy to really think about putting themselves in the other person's shoes before they decide to get butthurt, get emotionally hurt, and stuff like that. Well, what happened here is you can't really have high expectation of kids, right? That's just the reality of it. Is these are both two children still, even though they're 16 years old, something like that, they're still kids, you know. And when Masume got butthurt by Aki, he did that when he was like 8 years old or whatever it was, or 10 years old or something. So he did this years ago when he was legit a child. So you can't really expect a kid, at least a normal kid. There's probably like a 0.001% of kids out there who can have really high empathy, really high ability to put themselves in somebody else's shoes before they decide to get butthurt, emotionally hurt, and stuff like that. Well, this is a classic case of Masume not seeing the other side of Aki's story, and he finally heard the side of Aki's story and how she thinks of how him and her got along when they were kids and how he just up and left her, right? Without really fully understanding what her side was. Well, the moment that he heard her side of it, he was so infuriated by this information because he's like, that's not how it went. You call me pig's foot, you did XYZ, blah, 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 right? He can't even right now, he can't even for a second fathom that her side of the story is her reality. Now, what he could do is give up the farce, right? Give up the bad acting job that he's been doing and just say, hey, here's this and that. I'm Masume. This is what happened here. My side of the story is 3 kids did this, the flowers did this, you yelled, I can never be with you, pig's foot, whatever. Not thinking that she could possibly be responding not to him specifically. She could have been responding as something different. It could have been her dad. It could have just been that she was really angry. There's so many variables in her responding in that way for her not to even bring up that thing in her story. So in her mind, his variation of what happened with driving him out and honestly putting him in the right direction, because that's really what happened here. It put Boy in the right direction, even though it's for the wrong reasons. He's healthy, he's fit, he got 6-pack, he got it going on now. So it put him in the right direction, but take that away, it set him on a path, you know, specifically based on his memory of what happened. So he finally broke, and he was like, that's not how it happened, blah, 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 blah. And he sent Aki crying, with her, again, not really fully grasping what he even means at this point, because she hasn't put it together that he's not Masume. All she knows is at this point she likes this boy, and she just had to tell him that she can't be together, and she gave him the reason for why they can't be together. And he decided to get really angry and say that she deserves everything that's coming to her, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Probably half hearing things, as you do when someone's yelling. So I think this episode is really interesting for that, because he finally broke. And it's like, well, where do you go from here? Like, really, the place you go from here is give up on your revenge, even though that's what the show's about, right? It's Masamune-kun's revenge. His revenge could still be that he got fit, he looked good, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's still going to get the girl. His revenge could still be there. But, like, the reality is, like, the choice he should make now is give up on his revenge and set her straight. Call out Lardo Fat Boy over there, who's actually a girl, and, you know, call that farce out and set everything right. And maybe he doesn't end up with the girl, but at least you you squash this and you just move forward as you should. But again, the show is called Masamune-kun's Revenge, so I doubt that level of maturity, or I doubt that level of storytelling will take place, because it's still going to try and have him push that agenda of getting back at her. But again, getting back at her for something that seemingly is probably not her fault, and it actually could very well be more his fault, as opposed to what he thinks is actually occurring, which is also a pretty interesting thing and take as well. So overall, this episode, episode number 2 of the second season, really, really good. I'm actually really liking this season so far. Unlike some other anime that have decided to return smartphone anime, I'm looking at you, that kind of fell flat, kind of a wet fart on their second season revival after 3, 4, 5 years. Masamune-kun's Revenge is still intelligent, it's still really well written, and even though I'm kind of saying like, yo, he should give up on this and he shouldn't do this, blah blah blah, it's still really well written because it's able to get that emotion out of me. Maybe you too, maybe but it's able to get that emotion out of me, the viewer, to say, hey, you need to go and fix this stuff, bro. That's what good writing is, when you get these genuine reactions to a show. Like, that's what makes it really, really good, and that's what makes it really well written. And you just have to really like these characters, and you have to really root that eventually he gives up the revenge to end up with Aki, and Aki gives up the ideal of what he was and accept him for who he is, right? Like, you have to hope that at the end of this season that we finally get that like dum da da dum moment between these two characters that seemingly we all really love. So regardless, let me know what you thought about episode number 2 in the comments below. I appreciate you being here for another week of Masamune-kun's Revenge. Really great episode. Can't wait to see where we go from here. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week for episode number 3. All right, peace out, my friends. Deuce, deuce.